Welcome to Beneath the Surface with TJ Woodward and Rachel Kove. In a world that often moves quickly and stays on the surface, this is a space where we slow down and turn inward. Together, we explore what lives beneath our stories, our reactions, and the ways we've been conditioned to see ourselves, others, and the world. We dive into themes of recovery, trauma, identity, polarization, and conscious living. Let's begin. Welcome back. Hey, Rachel.
Hey.
Are you ready to take a deeper dive into something
and
go beneath the surface?
I love the depth in the deep.
This is going to be a big one.
This is a big one. Woo!
A deeper dive into polarization. And I want to start by just saying this. We have been told over and over again that we live in a polarized country and a polarized world. In my experience, a deeper truth, because yes, there's plenty of evidence to support that that's true. The deeper truth is we've been conditioned to have polarized thinking, us and them, good and bad, right and wrong. And to me, that's the literal disease that creates the polarization. And when I say literal disease, I don't mean an actual physical disease, but it's something that we've been conditioned to look at the world through that to the degree where we say things like, Rachel, if you disagree with me, I can't be your friend.
And you know what it reminds me of? Children. Children see things black and white. They do not have developed brains. They have very primitive brains. So it's rooted in survival.
Yes.
This or that. Listen, I say this with so much love. I love human beings. I think trauma creates so much destruction. Yeah. Feeling unloved, because now trauma is used at every second of the day, right? Love the word trauma. It's helpful. Language is important. What does it really mean? I don't feel loved. I feel disconnected. I feel like something's wrong with me. That's trauma. And something in a moment in time disconnected me from wholeness.
That's right.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Even in the Bible, I'm not talking about religion, but even in the Bible, like if you really dig into it, because I study all these different religions, just try to find like, where's the common theme in all of it? If you really like break down the word sin, people have it such ass backwards. It's just disconnection from love.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. So if you want to use that language, that's for that group, right? When I think of how we behave as adults in modern day society, I am reminded of how children behave. Because I'm around children all the time as a mother, raising a child myself, around children in schools and community. Children think black and white. Children think always and never. Children don't yet know how to think from a broader lens because they're just focused on who's the person that's going to take care of me. What am I going to eat today? How am I going to be protected? If you really think about it, that needs to be very simple. One or the other. Yeah. Where do I live? That's where I live. Who are my mom and dad? That's my mom. That's my dad. Certainty is what makes them feel safe.
Well, and there's a couple things I want to kind of lean into. Yes, at a certain age, and those who study childhood development know better than I, but I think what you're speaking to is I think it's like an age like 4 to 10 or 4 to 11. That's where they're very concrete. In the beginning, they're actually not as much. They're just more absorbing energy. They haven't even started to experience themselves as a separate being.
No.
And that's part of the development.
Yes.
And it's not better to be 3 than it is to be 10 than to be 100 years old. It's just a different part of the development, the cycle of life. What happens is, as you're saying so eloquently and brilliantly, is we can get stuck there. Mm-hmm. Here's the key though, because you said something so important. I want to be loved and I want to experience my own wholeness. We do that in the very beginning of life, and then we start to differentiate, which is an important part of our development. Many of us get stuck there, and the key is this. When I disconnect from my wholeness, from my true nature, then I look to the world to feel that connection. This is where polarization lives, because what happens, and I'm going to be bold and talk about my experience during COVID.
Yeah.
Because what happened in my life is I started to understand on a very deep level this idea of finding our tribe. And it is, I need to have a community of people. And often we say a like-minded group of people. In other words, I need to find a group of people who agree with me. And that's great on one level, except what happens if I start to question? So during COVID, I was in a, pretty comfortable in my group of people that I identified with in some way, be it, conscious or unconscious. But I started to question what I was being told. Mm-hmm. And I was ostracized by some people, not for saying that they were wrong, but for questioning it.
For questioning it. For questioning things. Like, I was with someone the other day. I was having dinner at their home. They weren't from America. And they were so curious of how non-judgmental I was. And I found that interesting.
Because they assumed Americans would be judgmental? Yes.
Yes. And I asked them questions, and I found myself scared to ask them questions. I did it anyway, because I don't often let fear run my life. I just become curious of it and then choose in that moment how I want to proceed. Just information. And then I get to choose what I want to do with it once the fear tells me whatever the thought is or whatever the worst case scenario is, right? And I found myself really sad because I think this has become an epidemic.
Agreed.
Speaking of epidemic, we are losing the freedom in just feeling comfortable being curious and asking questions.
Right.
And also, it's been around for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I remember growing up being told you're nosy if you ask questions. I also grew up in a home where if I disagreed with the authority figures, if I had my own opinion, I would be yelled at. I would be shamed. So that experience of I need to believe what you believe, right, so that you accept me is coming from childhood. Everything we are doing is either from a place of survival or creation.
And if we want to talk about how we move beyond polarization, it is in the questioning.
Yeah.
So the way I say it simply is curiosity expands and judgment constricts, right? And judgment, it might have a bad rap. Judgment to me just means it's this. I've decided it's this. And once I've decided it's this, and by the way, quantum mechanics is now measuring this, once I decide it's something, that's what I see.
Yep.
And you also spoke to something that's so important because, in our early development as a species, we needed a group of people, otherwise we'd get eaten by the big animals.
Yes.
And it's in our DNA. DNA gets passed along, and the trauma, again, an overused word, I agree completely, but the essence of trauma is something that is counter to the deep knowing of who I really am. And I start to create a false identity. And that's really what we're talking about. Fear activates the need to find a safe group of people. And that can be a beautiful thing until it becomes, if I disagree with you, I'm afraid I might get rejected or thrown out. And there's a place deep within me that literally feels, even though I wouldn't say this or have a conscious belief of this, that I might get killed, murdered, or,
yes,
eaten by the animal. It's very deep within us. And so most people, as we've been establishing, are walking around unconscious of this. But we call it confirmation bias now, meaning I see what I expect to see. So if I find a group of people who mostly agree with me, I start to feel safe. And then I say, well, I don't want to have a different point of view than this group of people because I might get ostracized. And most of this is not conscious because most people wouldn't say, oh yeah, that's true. I changed my opinion so I can be loved and accepted by my group. Most people would not agree with that. And yet that's what's happening.
Well, my opinion is this, and I had Joe Tabanella on my podcast recently, and he talked about the 4 brains. A lot of us behave like wild, primitive animals. What makes us human, that he talks about so brilliantly, is our frontal lobes. That's what makes us different, right? So the animal in us, we are mammals, right? We're animals and we're mammals. So we thrive in connection, right? So part of us is always going to seek that connection from the herd, right? What is consciousness? Awareness, 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 awareness. Having more information does make you more aware, right? When you're present, you are able to be aware of how to apply that information in the moment with that person when they have a different opinion of you, right? We have now started to create so much survival energy, right, around opinions.
Yeah.
And it's because, in my opinion, people are not feeling their unprocessed rage. They are not connecting to their anger, to their unprocessed emotions around being ostracized as a child, as a teenager. I know what that's like. I don't know if I've ever fit in until I found who I really am. I fit in with myself. But growing up, I was so many different things, right? And I just want to finish that train of thought. If I don't deal with that inner child and that inner teenager who never felt like she fit in, I will go create that in my adult life, in every situation that I'm in, whether it be at work, whether it be with someone who has different political views than me, whether it be with someone who chose to get the vaccine or someone who chose not to get the vaccine, whether it be with someone who has a different socioeconomic experience in life. I will find a way to reject you, and I will take your different opinion as a rejection of me, and it will trigger my fight or flight energy, and that's when we become hostile and cancel people.
And what you said that is so important that I want to lean into is how we move beyond polarization is to feel. And that may sound overly simplistic to someone, but here's what happens as I see it. And Bessel van der Kolk, I love this quote. He says, trauma doesn't show up as a memory, it shows up as a reaction. And so when I'm in the reactivity, a big part of that, because that's the fight response, right? A big part of that is, I don't want to feel this. And so the way I frame it is, what would I be experiencing without the story? Because the story keeps me from actually feeling it. And there's this very simple model. If I say, I feel like, or I feel that, it's not going to be a feeling. I feel like you shouldn't have said that, Rachel, or I feel like I want to, or I feel like they are doing this. I feel that those are not feelings. I feel sad, because I agree with you about the unfelt rage, also the unfelt sadness, also the unfelt grief. Also, we could just keep going. Emotions are an internal navigation system letting us know there's something that needs attention. So if I can pause, because they say, anger management, which let me just tell you this, let's stop telling people they need to manage their anger.
Thank you.
And start asking what the anger is managing. Very different framework.
Wow.
And when I can I worked with a client, Rachel, who had anger issues. And we weren't going to let him into treatment because it was going to be unsafe, and on and on and on and on. And, it was this kind of a gentle guy who was very explosive when things got activated. And it was obviously his trauma. After, I think it was our third session, all I said is, do you think that anger's managing something? What do you mean? What's underneath the anger? He broke down crying, and he said, no one's ever asked me that. Now, I think that is like anger 101, what's beneath the anger? And yet he was in his probably early 30s and no one had yet asked him that. They were just, how do you not be so angry? And the reason this is so important is if I allow myself to feel instead of being in the reaction, I can realize that I have opinions, but I'm not my opinions. I took a 30-day challenge to not have an opinion. I can tell you how long I went, 30 seconds. And I realized that my mind is constantly opinionated. And I had an awareness that the goal was not to quiet the mind, but to understand that I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts.
You're not your thoughts. And thank you for saying all of that. It's so profound. It's so profound. A lot of my groups are focused on building a positive and loving, safe relationship with anger. Dr. Gabor Mate talks about this in the most brilliant way. Anger is not bad. And actually, Dr. Nicole LePera talks about this sentence. Anger is not bad. What you do with anger can be bad. When people don't see that anger is designed to tell you something is not okay right now.
Yeah.
I feel unsafe. Anger is necessary to tell me something is wrong. It's survival. When you've been shamed in your anger, when anger was not safely guided as a child, when you had a parent that was violent, hostile, expressed anger in scary ways, then a child absorbs that, attaches a meaning to that, builds up that fight or flight energy around the stimulus of anger. And now anger is either something you avoid or it's something you fight. And so that is so prevalent in society. It appears in different ways with different people, right? Because like I said, it comes up differently depending on how you were raised. But this is how I like to access this with clients. What's your relationship to conflict? Because conflict is going to create tension. Tension is how we create something new. So I always tell people conflict is an opportunity to create mutual understanding and intimacy if you know how to navigate the conflict with conscious communication skills. Can you seek to understand the person's opinion? Can you ask questions? Can you sit with an emotion like anger, frustration, disappointment, shame, and not react and yell and discharge the discomfort on the other person?
That's right. So the way I say it is the greatest freedom I'll ever experience is freedom from the reactive impulse. Ooh. And the reactive impulse is exactly what you said. No, it's you, not me. Okay, we've come to the end of our time.
Did we?
I want to say in closing, what I'm hearing us say is pause, feel, and question. Pause, feel, and question. So I pause. I ask myself, what am I experiencing? Not what's the story. I don't say I'm feeling that or I'm feeling like. I'm like, ooh, I'm feeling a lot of rage. I'm feeling a lot of tightness. What's under that? I'm feeling sadness. Let myself feel. And then start to question, where did I first start feeling this? Where did I start using rage or anger as a way to manage this? And what are the infinite possibilities?
Wow.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Join us for the next episode. We'll see what we're going to talk about, but we do know that we're going to dive down beneath the surface. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Beneath the Surface. As we close, we invite you to notice what may still be resonating or unfolding within you. There's no need to resolve anything, just allow it to be met with curiosity and compassion. If this conversation was meaningful, please subscribe, share the episode, or leave a review. It helps others discover this space and continue the conversation. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, stay present, and keep exploring what lives beneath the surface.